see.
I think we're in, right, Marcus?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. LinkedIn has it. It's a little laggy, so we got to make sure that it's live on this side as well.
I think it is.
Yep, we're up.
I think it is.
Back. We're back. Joe, what's up, man? Yeah.
Doing my thing. I'm in the midst of moving apartments, so it is fun. I left one thing hanging, and that is that. So it doesn't look like I'm in an empty asylum right now.
Give a little ambiance to the space.
Yeah.
We love that. So, what type of mover are you? Are you like one that packs in different areas, or you just like box everything up? Do you label? What's kind of your
Well, Marcus, if I may, and you know this about me, I've been quite nomadic for many years. So it used to be fairly easy to just put everything in a couple boxes, and I could probably just piece out myself. But I have a few more things nowadays, and I'm hired mover, so I packed up. And being in the events industry, my mind goes to organized chaos. So at first it was chaos, and now it's like organizational, just everything, just to make sure that it's like Tetris almost. But having the movers, will be very beneficial. So that's good. But yeah,
I like that. I mean, so when I moved to DC, I took everything out the rooms because I was in New York. So basically you only had a room to yourself. That's
right.
The part they don't tell you about. But I put everything in sections and then labeled them like living room, all of that. And I realized that even in my small room, I had so much. And so when I got to my place, I live in DC now, I was like, I need to fill this place up. So I'm not excited about moving whenever that time comes. But yeah, that is definitely something I always want to know is what type of mover are you?
Well, Marcus, I mean, to go right into what we're talking about today and how it's been a bit. We've had some pretty crazy June, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
It's an experience moving. So, more experiences, right?
Yeah, more experiences. So first off, welcome everybody to another episode of the Evolution of Engagement. My name is Marcus and this is Joe. We are two people that work in the experiential industry. We've connected over the past couple of years. We've seen each other at events. We've hung out. And today, again, if you saw the title, we really want to continue to talk about what's happening in the industry, but also give a little Cannes Lions recap. And then we're also going to just touch on what's to come. We're at the halfway point of the year. So what's really cool is that we've done a few of these. We've had a lot of great conversations. And so it is continuing to make sure that we bring the community along. And that's what this is about. The Evolution of Engagement is a space for those who work in experiential and those who just want to know about it. People that have brand ambassador companies, to creative production, designers, builders, and even those on the agency and brand sides, just coming to one place and collaborate and hear from each other. Last episode, we had Kim on, who was a great guest. And thank you, Kim, for being a part of the conversation. So we're excited to just catch up today. And then we have some news about what our plans are for the next few months. But
it's been a lot, right? I mean, honestly, we started this December of 2023 and kept it going. And there's just been so much in the last 6 months, Marcus, that when you think about all the events from B2B to B2C and what that also entails of like when we would talk about it afterwards, like a recap, but then also talk about the upcoming events. And it's always so much. And it's funny, you mentioned Kim, and I saw her post on LinkedIn today, and it highlighted the FOMO mentality, right? And how if we could stop with that FOMO mentality and more so of learning to enjoy, like the joy of missing out, almost like, okay, hey, I can't make it to every single thing, but the one that I want to make it to will be that much more impactful and that much more meaningful. And I loved what she wrote about it, and that literally just moments ago. So it's kind of on topic because there's just so much to look forward to for the rest of this year. However, how can we make it meaningful to the ones that you are able to attend or are able to go to. And I'm sure you saw a lot of that at Cannes Line. I'm sure it was an influx of so much stuff, but yeah.
It was so many things. I think we'll get to that later on. But you talk about, like we were talking about earlier, the amount of events and these trends that are happening within the experiential space. But there was something that you brought to my attention that I kind of was like, a light bulb went off, and I was like, oh, I want to hear more about that. And that's the emotions tied to experiential. So give us a little bit of that. You talked about it before, and I really want to hear and share with the audience, like when you talk about emotions through experiential. Are there five? There, you said there were five
Well,
emotions.
yeah, I mean, look, I used our I used our friend in the industry as well as the world right now, and that's called artificial intelligence. So ChatGPT definitely helped me kind of craft it, but
Yeah,
I also believe in it, Marcus, and I know you do too. Like, how many times do we see agencies, brands, people, freelance always talk about like whatever trend is happening, right? And
yeah,
because this is titled The Evolution of Engagement, you could practically see that the evolution of trends should be a little bit more visceral and have like that weight that you can really feel. And to me, what we provide out there for people are these events and these experiential activations, but at the end of the day it's about that emotional connection with someone, right?
yeah,
And so for me, I looked at it as, okay, these are trends I'm seeing all over, whether it's something happening at South by or Cannes or some conference that's going on. What is the emotions that are being conveyed or evoked out of the consumer or the attendee?
yeah,
I found that connection is one emotion, but that sense of connecting and engaging with whatever brand it is, or maybe the individuals. Another is belonging.
yep,
Belonging I've found to be super important. I mean, everyone wants that purpose and that kind of that feeling of how do I connect with that other, that experience I'm partaking in. Responsibility is another. I found responsibility is key for the brand to evoke. There has to be a responsibility to make sure you're providing maybe a multi-sensory experience, maybe a pop-up that's sustainable, or maybe like a mobile tour, and being responsible of hitting the target markets for all the demographics that you're trying to reach. Um, Wonder is another emotion, and I think that one might be my favorite,
mhm,
only because it's to design something immersive and something to be memorable, like lasting
right,
impression wise. And
yep,
Wonder does that. You see that with Meow Wolf, with like the wonder that they create, and various others, right?
yeah,
Um, and the other emotion I found was a sense of care. And I think care goes both ways. Care for the brand, to care about who they're obviously activating toward or reaching out to, and then care on the consumer or the attendee side. Do I care about this thing that I'm even going through? Do I care also how they're connecting with me? So there's those emotions that I've found to be, or at least that resonates with me. And then when
yeah.
I kind of utilize ChatGPT to really get an understanding of what those emotions are, I highly recommend people use the tool of AI to like kind of deep dive into it and really see how those emotions are trends of themselves, but there's so much more impact that they have than just saying, hey, here's shipping containers as a trend. It's a little bit deeper than that.
It is. It is. So there was something that you said, and the one that sticks out to me as well as wonder. I love that emotion, and I was looking at a few people that posted on LinkedIn their can recap, and one of them included talking about the allowing your brand to be more playful and not so serious, and that invokes that moment of wonder, and it's a childlike feeling to kind of explore and still being able to tap into that. I think that's what experiential does. Is there's this psychology to it,
Yep.
and wonder, as well as being able to, that sense of belonging, like you feel that you're in a space that you belong in, and that you want to wonder and look around, and there's a curiosity, and eventually that leads to connecting. And then now the brand has been responsible, or they are giving you a responsible experience. And the responsibility hits on so many levels, like you mentioned, making sure that that maybe they're more of a green kind of effect to what they're doing, or it's just like the experience in general is consideration. They have considerations for all types of people, disabilities. Like that's a responsible thing, and I think like those are real emotions that brands have to connect with.
100%. And I mean, you speak to Can and these emotions and that the topic of that FOMO that Kim kind of was posting about. I'd love to kind of just marry all those together and ask you how Can Lion went, because you were there and you were in the weeds, that's for sure.
In
Um,
the weeds.
but I'm sure you saw so much. I mean, I remember last year seeing probably more than I could even handle, and it was funny watching all the recaps on LinkedIn and kind of being like, if I'm not mistaken, this year they allowed creators and influencers to, well, creators always go, but influencers to attend. And
Yeah,
Ad Age had an article about it, and it was about how LinkedIn allowing B2B influencers to attend, and more folks really being there to kind of like do this recap or
yeah,
this ongoing, hey, what's the happening that's going on in the south of France right now, so
yeah.
I'd love to get your take and your feels on it.
Yeah, so this year, this is my third festival, and a little bit different this year. My role was a little different on how I got there and how I participated. But overall, like I think the energy around Cannes was really high. Also, with the Paris Olympics torch coming through, once in a lifetime experience, being able to even be a part of that, see that. Um, a little underwhelming, I guess, because you just see it on TV and you think that it's something bigger, but it's something that
Yeah.
exists and that I was around for, and that's really cool. And you just there was tons. I should have bought a Paris Olympics like tote bag or something, but you know what's crazy is that I have so much of that kind of stuff. Like after a while, I just don't want any more. Like
Do you see this Snapchat hat? I got this at an event, and I used to be a brand ambassador, so I used to have all that swag, and we still
yeah,
get it. And
yeah.
some days I'm just like, I don't need it. I
I
don't.
don't need it. I just don't need more stuff. Um, But so there were a lot of creators. There was definitely a lot of talent there this year, celebrity talent on all levels, influencers. And then, yeah, Ad Age did do some content creators. And actually, there was that posted out kind of I mentioned or talked about on. It was really around like there's a guy named Walter Greer who is one of the leads in he's phenomenal at the work he does in the advertising industry. But there was just some back and forth on how he was represented as a Black creator and as a Black lead, and so that was part of that article. But they definitely did. LinkedIn did reach out to have people come to the festival this year. So. But overall, like I think that this year you could see the growth in conversations about AI. You could see the growth. It's like not secondary conversations. It was truly like introducing new platforms, and that's was really exciting. This year I went through Can Diversity Collective. I actually every year has been through that program, but this year I was the lead digital experience director. So building what the brand looks like on social, and then how we collaborate with our partners and the content. Did some documentary interview styles as well, which was really fun because I got to talk with a lot of industry leaders, as well as got to meet Gabrielle Union. That was really cool, and one of those moments that just goes down to history for me. And yeah, so the beach was called Inkwell Beach. It had amazing conversations. We from an Olympian that was there who has won, kind of defined the odds as a Black hurdler. John Legend introduced his new skincare line at our beach. Queen Latifah came through. Ali Love, who is like one of the main faces on the Peloton platform. So it was really cool just to see our growth there. And Equal Beach is focused on diversity inclusion and at Can, and we're one of the leaders in the conversation there, led by Adrian C. Smith. And so, yeah, it was really good. And so when I did get a break, I went I went out. I was like, I'm going to go see as much as I can this year at Cannes, no pun intended. But
Well, I mean, shoot, I know you'd only had so much time to dip out last year
yeah.
too, and I remember we went to a few different things, but yeah, I'd love to hear kind of what you saw out there.
So I was smart about my time. So in the mornings, once I got up, I'm going straight to as many places as
Right.
I could, and I ended up going to check out Pinterest Manifestville. This is, I think, their third. They've been doing it, but I think this was the year they kind of took it to the next level in the design and look and feel. They had their tattoo station, which is definitely a hit. They also did a lot of upcycling and customization through their products. And with Pinterest, it's almost taking the app into real life, and so it's a lot of DIY. It's like kind of bringing your what you see on your board to real life, and I think that was what their vision was. And I did not get a tattoo this year. I was trying to get there because I was like, I want one. Like, why can I get one of those? But design wise, beautiful setup. Um, it's interesting that with the beaches, like they're building on top of a real beach as well as like when it's not there, it's a hotel beach. So it's all down, it goes into the ground. Like it's really cool how on the production side, they're able to build on top of that. Of course, Spotify and Sport Beach got the biggest sites. Like their spaces are huge.
Right.
Sport Beach had amazing conversations from Carmelo Anthony, Brandon Marshall, the Kelsey brothers pulled up. That was a lot of energy with Travis and what is Travis' brother name?
I forgot now.
He's an Eagle, so it doesn't matter anyway. Cowboys. And so but thinking about the conversations that I heard as well, like again, it was definitely around the AI space, but also just how brands are being more open to like trying new things, allowing creators to be more involved with the brand versus like just giving them deliverables and expecting them to execute on them. This year, also, I went to the award show, so that was cool. I love getting to the award show. It's my second time, so
Did you
uh,
actually catch like because I remember going to a panel or actually a few panels last year, and
yeah,
it's actually really great. I mean,
yep,
that is the main portion of it. I mean, just like any keynote or event, you have these people obviously speaking on some really great topics of discussion and
yep,
AI. I was following some stuff. I subscribe to Morning Brew, and they have a thing called Marketing Brew, and
yep.
it was following everything with regarding Can, and I really enjoyed kind of how they really were piecing together AI, and but I'm sure you saw a lot of other things.
Yeah. So the award show allowed me to go and see who was winning, who won from last year's work. Because yeah, I'm there to have a good time and I'm there to meet people and there to go see all these big splashy activations. But I
Right.
want a trophy, Joe. I need a trophy. And so if I'm gonna get a trophy, you gotta go study what they're doing to get these trophies. And so and so I was like, you know what? I am going to go see, especially in the category of experiential, who's winning.
Yeah.
And it's different. And what's interesting about the experiential category is it's not called experiential like building. I don't think it's called brand experience. So there's different things tied to experiential that get all put in the same category. And I was like,
Right.
okay, this is interesting. There was one ad that ran during the Super Bowl that was DoorDash's ad, DoorDash, I think, and Wiley Kennedy, but it was the longest promo code where they gave away every single item that was shown in the Super Bowl. So they won. Of course, they were going to win. When that award came or that commercial came out during Super Bowl, you knew that that was going to get a trophy at the end of the year. So or during this during Ken Lyon. So um, yeah. What else did I see? Reddit has a nice spot. I'm surprised I didn't go see more of Reddit because they were closer to the Palais, which is a long walk. But Reddit has grown as a platform. It's kind of being a part of today's conversation amongst in the boardrooms, like in the war rooms, like we bring up Reddit a lot, just because it's deep in insights.
Yeah.
And then TikTok. So TikTok gamified their space this year. You know, everybody just wants swag. Well, with TikTok this year, you had to scan your RFID band at each spot, and you had to collect a set of pins. And then when you collected all the pins, you were able to go to the giveaway counter and get this bag of tons of swag. But
Huh.
if you skip steps and you just went up there, you just get a bucket hat and like a little sticky thing
Wait,
for
you
your
know
phone.
what? I kind of like that, Marcus. That's
I do.
I like that. That's what a great way to entice the people to have to go through like the experience itself. I mean, of course, like we were mentioning earlier, it's just swag, but sometimes that's what people really want, and so
Yeah.
that's an interesting one. Yeah.
Justin, what's up? I see he said been seeing activations more for tattoos the last month or 3 years, which I'm curious if they were doing the same at Cannes. Yeah, so Pinterest, I think like I mean, there's so much hype around their space that like it's really hard to get in there to even get the tattoos. You got to stand in line all day.
It,
Um,
I've seen that type of that style of. Well, here's a great point about trends and emotions, right? I've
yep.
seen that
Here we go.
as a trend, right? And like people are doing it way more often these days. And I saw that kind of style of activation or that element of interaction at South by, at various others, and I like it. I just think if if you're just doing it just to do it to carry on that trend, I don't know if that's always useful. You know what I mean? So it's
And but going back to the emotion like we were talking about earlier, it's almost like there's this connectivity that I got a tattoo in France through Pinterest. Like those three little keywords makes it a moment, and like, all right, that's why this trend hits for Pinterest. And it's just like, which creatively, like, and I think about this as someone who works with multiple teams, I almost sometimes want to take apart our tactics and do that. Like, what are maybe a gym, Joe? What are the emotions tied to this tactic? Hey, we may have just discovered something. What are the emotions tied to this tactic? But like, I don't ever truly do that, and I kind of want to start doing that. Like, what is the emotion tied to this tactic that will be a
well,
driver?
Marcus, when you dissect, like I always think it's funny how when we get so in the weeds with what we do, you ever think about how like someone if we bring in someone that's not part of the event and experiential industry and they go to something, they are like truly in wonder and in awe in sometimes in a literal sense, but other times in a figurative of like, wow, hey, I'm going to this event, I'm going to this thing. It's really cool and different.
Yeah, yeah.
We are so, I don't know, desensitized almost to the fact that it becomes, hey, you got logistics, you got production, you got account management, you got client
Yeah.
relations, you got budgets to worry about. Like we worry about all these little nuances of our industry that we sometimes forget to dissect the experience itself or the trend itself to find out, hey, this is what it takes and this is what emotions are happening or being evoked
Mhm.
again. It is a really good idea, like what you and I just mentioned there. So
Joe, I love that sometimes we just come up with things as we have these conversations. Going back to our Power Rangers, which we really need to break that one down
yeah,
too.
that's right.
I think
That's right.
that was
See,
another one
this is
about
this is the thing about this is I like that this is a type of meeting of the minds, if you will, for this.
yeah, yeah, always, always. Again, shout out to those who are joining us. This is Evolution of Engagement, again, a place where those who work in the experiential industry and even those outside of it in brand or B2B and B2C can just come together and hear and collaborate. There's when people join, meet those other people, Adam, also connect with Joe and I. If there's ever just regular conversations or if there's just ways you want to bring us on to do more of evolution of engagement, we're gonna take this show on the road. I'm telling you, Joe, that's gonna happen for us in the future.
Well, I mean, speaking of the road, I know
Yeah,
the plan is on my end to hopefully get over to Comic Con. I've actually never attended Comic Con, so
me either.
I'm intrigued. I mean, I know it's massive, and then it
Have you been to any type of Comic-Con, like the anime style or any of that before?
no, and there's many of them. I mean, there's, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, there's a BlizzCon, there's AnimeCon, there's Comic Con, and I
Yeah.
mean, I think the closest I ever went to something that even resembled something like that is TwitchCon and
Yeah.
ComplexCon. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, same. I haven't been either, but I'm excited for you to go to Comic Con. We're excited to hear what happens there, and then for you to bring that back to us.
Yeah, I'd like to. I know that would be a good one to just kind of oversee what type of activations or even brands show up. I mean, I'm noticing more and more that the most you wouldn't think that a certain brand shows up at one of these events, and then they do, and
Yep.
they're the ones that tend to knock it out of the park, really, because
Yep.
they're trying to show up in a very different fashion.
Yep.
That is another one. I just saw that Elizabeth just commented that Dragon Con.
Dragon Con.
Yeah, I've heard of that one too. That's right.
Oh man, hold on. Let's do a quick little Dragon Con. Multi-genre pop culture convention. Yeah, yeah. Founded in 1987. This may be kind of lit.
See, I mean, I'm telling you, there's always something else. Like you were telling me about a festival just yesterday when we were talking. I think it was what, Life is Beautiful or something like that. And I'm really intrigued about that one too, because the festivalization thing, you know, I don't even want to use that word festivalization. I feel like a lot of people have used that word, but when you do show up at a festival, I always love seeing what people are doing. I saw BizBash did a recap of all the activations that were happening at Governor's Ball, and
Yeah.
it was cool. Some of the ones that showed up, I was like really impressed, and I you know, would love to see what else is going on out there. So,
Oh yeah. I just thanks Elizabeth for sharing that, because I'll put a little nugget in the atmosphere. That's what this is about. So Joe, I know we are thinking about what's coming up here for us. You mentioned that you're going to have a couple events that you're going to. And actually, when the next couple shows, I think we're going to try to bring some guests on. Is that right? No names yet, but
no names, but I believe the best thing, I know this episode today we're cutting it a little bit short just due to some personal things, but I'm looking forward to our next ones because of you know, guests and just overarching, kind of tying it back to what we were talking about in the beginning, overarching events that are going forward because of the second half of the year. It's going to be busy. I mean, the fall is crazy busy with conferences, like B2B conferences, like crazy. And then this summer is obviously continuing the trend of festivals and pop-ups that go on and stuff like that. So there's a lot to report on now.
Yeah, it will be. Actually, next week I go to the Chicago Street Race in Chicago.
Okay.
For one of the brands that I work on, and super excited about our pop-up space. But I'm going to bring some of that back, see what I share. NASCAR is an interesting place to be in. What is more, it's happening on 4th of July weekend, so that's pretty an American thing, I guess, to do. But it'd be cool, you know. This is my second time going. Be my second time going. It was really interesting, like see how, because it's on the streets, it's the normal streets, so it's really cool to see how the brands show up, and what brands that are around NASCAR, because also it's Chicago, so you want to. There's so many different types of. The demo is huge there, and people just come out and hang. So excited about that. And then, like you said, a bunch of festivals. I'm potentially going to Broccoli City Festival that'll be here in DC. Converse is the head sponsor there, so I'm interested to see what they do as they show up there. Life is Beautiful. It's a couple others that are just going to round out that Q3 for us. And again, excited to bring guests along as well. So
there'll be I think there'll be quite a few guests as we try to bridge that gap and have more people involved in this, you know, show. And like we've always talked about, this is an evolution of the show itself and the evolution of engagement. You know, we started this just as something to talk about brand partnerships and recapping brand activations, and I think it's really important for us to just keep doing this. And I appreciate everyone for always joining or tuning in. You know, once a month, we just like to kind of get together and talk shop. So I think it's a good time. I know one I'm going to attend. I hope I'm attending. It's called Farnborough Show in it's like an hour outside of London. It's an air show, but it's gonna it's the mecca of like the aerospace and everything like that. But it's gonna be different, you know. And you kind of get an interesting take on what that actually is in the field of experiential and events. I've never attended something like that, so it's different, you know, for me. But to recap it will be really fascinating because I'd love to see like what are those trends, what are those emotions, what are those insights that you get from a different industry, different vertical, and then seeing how it ties into like B2C or some type of festival that's going on. And and don't forget Wimbledon's also coming up too.
Wimbledon, I was going to say Wimbledon is coming up. I think that's another big one. Like, of course, you know, American Express, they have a huge hand on the Wimbledon. Or is that the U.S. Open?
That's U.S. Open, if I'm not mistaken.
U.S. Open, they have a big hand on it. So Wimbledon, still want to see what's happening there. And you know what we have to continue to think about, and I don't want to prolong this, but like what are the new sporting trends and what brands are showing up? Your pickleball spaces, it's kind of about to go crazy. It's going to go to that next level, and I expect more brands to kind of put their hand in there.
I do too. I mean, the sports industry is just it's crazy, Marcus. You know that, and like how many brands are showing up at different things. I mean, do you understand? Look, I'm a Buffalo native, you know this, and I'm obviously a Bills fan by association and default. I'm intrigued to see what brands show up here in Buffalo, New York for like Bills game. I mean, it's because of how much they've been obviously doing a lot better over the years and stuff. But you see the sports world just continuously growing and
gonna grow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'm putting it on my calendar, and that is the WNBA All-Star Weekend. I think that the brands are definitely going to go there. Your big shoe brands will definitely be in town, and of course some of their official sponsors. But I'm excited to see that because that is another huge moment where you know, the brands are going to be showcasing what they're doing and how they should support the sports side. And then as well as NBA Summer League. I doubt they do a lot there, but definitely WNBA games is going to be, or All-Star Weekend is going to be huge. So yeah, man.
Well, Marcus, you know how it's going to go. It's going to be fast and furious out there. Look forward to some of the things that are also happening tying into entertainment. I mean, just seeing The Boys get premiered. I've been catching up on The Boys, that show, and like how there's always an activation surrounding that. Or Deadpool's coming out. The new one that's already having like projections of like a $200 million opening box office, which is insane for an R-rated film. And you know, that's Marvel. So like there's going to be a lot of things kind of happening in that space too. So
and what's interesting, like what will those, especially those big spaces, like, or those kind of those headlining shows, how do they show up at a Comic-Con? How do they show up at a Dragon Con? You know, like those are places that if I was those brands, like, yo, we're about to shut it down. Like we're going to be front and center. We want, as soon as you come in, to see our space, super interactive, connected to a lot of emotions, so consumers can go out and be watching our film or streaming our shows. So yeah, man, we have a lot coming up. Thank you for those who tuned in for Evolution of Engagement. You can watch the replay, definitely share it with people, connect with people that are even in the chat or just watching the show. Again, this place is for those who work in the experiential event industry, but those who just love marketing and love what's going on trend wise, and then looking for ways to grow and learn more things. Joe and I just love to talk shop, and we enjoy sharing our passion to those who want to listen. And speaking of Fast and Furious, NASCAR as well, pop-ups can create some great noise at events. You are right about that, Elizabeth. If you're in Chicago, come by our space. But yeah, Thank you again, Joe. I'm glad we carved out some time here on a Friday. Safe
Absolutely.
travel.
Thank you, Marcus. And, I appreciate always being able to do something like this and learning about, when you're out in the field, when I'm out in the field, and then sooner or later, we're going to both be at the same event as we try.
Yeah.
We try to do that. All right. We try to do that. So
We try. I love it. All right. Thank you all. Stay tuned for the next episode. Much love.
thanks, everyone.